Hi there, everybody. Hopefully everyone's had a good week so far and has been able to stay cool during the sizzling 90s. And you know, speaking of the sizzling 90s, that's what I think I wanted to make the topic of the blog I'm putting out this week. The vlog, I suppose. Man, I'm still not up with those cooler terms yet, the trendier, newer terms and anything and everything. But I digress there a little bit. So I did want to talk about the heat in general and tackle the topic of a heat wave. Now, there is a set definition of a heat wave, although it's important to note that a heat wave could actually vary. It's a very interesting subject here. Now, the World Meteorological Organization defines a heat wave as 5 consecutive days where the temperature is at least 9 degrees above what's considered normal or average for that particular time frame. But most areas and regions along the world, it varies. Even here in the United States, it varies so much. And it's kind of more of a relative thing as opposed to following this definition in a lot of spots. Usually because of, what's typical, impacts and whatnot to the population. What I mean by that is, for example, a heat wave for us is obviously much different than a heat wave for Arizona or even a heat wave in New England, say in Maine, for example. Even Montana, it can be different. Greg was telling me about this the other day. The definition of a heat wave in Montana, well, the threshold temperature for them, he used to work there, by the way, is 85 degrees. Here it's 90 or higher for 3 days in a row. So we did get our first official heat wave of the summer season. Actually, we got an extra day too. Now, today's Wednesday as I'm recording this, and yesterday, Tuesday, we did manage to sneak 90 in a lot of spots just because of the placement of where some of the showers and the storms popped up. And Harrisburg barely got past some of those showers and storms that would have hurt you and kept you in the 80s. But instead, Harrisburg International Airport barely dodged some of the worst of it, so they didn't get cooled down too much right around peak heating. And then you did manage to get to 90. Could that happen again today? Sure, but most spots, just like yesterday, could very well just be stuck in the middle to upper 80s depending upon shower and thunderstorm formation and timing. I think it's a little more likely today than it was yesterday, just because it looks like we might have a little more time until those showers and storms start to develop. So that's just something to keep in mind here. It's actually a very interesting topic, how it can vary. So for us in Pennsylvania, yes, and I grew up in the Philadelphia area, so I knew growing up, at least for the area, that a heat wave was 90 or higher. And it seems like it doesn't matter where in Pennsylvania you are for that. The typical verbiage, or at least what's understood to be a heat wave, is technically just that. So a lot of people don't follow the definition from the World Meteorological Organization. It's just like one of those, I don't know. Not everything in meteorology is absolute, so it makes sense to not go by the definition of the term like that. It obviously varies. There we go. So I wanted to talk about a couple other topics too, in addition to heat waves that are heat related, just heat safety tips, your typical heat safety tips and why, you hear them even, 90 is not that bad. Why don't you hear them at 100? Well, there's a lot of things to consider with that. And also, I wanted to touch upon those topics a little later on this morning. We'll see whenever I can sneak in the time, but for now I do have to finish up with my hair. So until then, I'll be checking in with you guys later. right, everyone, welcome back. I am now sitting in my little sunroom hanging out. I had to take care of some emails for a Climate Smart series that our weather team is working on. This is really exciting. I've been trying to schedule an interview for it's going to sort of, my piece anyway, sounds like it's going to have two portions to it. I don't want to give too much away yet because this is still in the very preliminary stages of setting up interviews, and then eventually I'll put it all together. Everybody is really doing their own part here, and it's going to be really cool. You know, interest in the environment and climate science continues to just go up, and we're just so thrilled about it and happy to share this information. So a little bit of a side note before I get to the main event here, be on the lookout for, hearing more about this in the weeks to come. We'll keep you up to date, of course, on all the typical social outlets, and I'm sure on air as well. Otherwise, you saw me outside doing some emails, a little bit of busy work on my off time, yes, and watering the plants because, my goodness. All right, another side note here. I have to say, the growing season has been fabulous. We planted on Mother's Day, which was what? May 8th, 9th, something like that. I don't remember the exact day. I just remember it was very early. And I mean, comment below on how your luck has been going. Our parsley is already out of control. The basil's not so bad, but I haven't started pruning it yet, but I really need to get to it. I need to make some time to do that to make sure, that can take off as well, because this weather has just been fabulous. From what I've noticed, my basil, at least with our area, because there could be some of those local biases that might affect that, but for the most part, really has been great weather for this overall, so I really need to get on that. Basil tends to do well a little later once we get to the real hot temperatures. Basil likes to be hot and dry. Of course, you need your water, but basil does not like to be cold and wet. Just so you know, planting your basil too early just might not work out. It's best to wait if it looks like conditions aren't quite right earlier in the season. But we've even had a few peppers already, and I'm noticing a couple of tomatoes already. Now they're slicing tomatoes, so they're going to be big, so they still have some time to go, of course. But my goodness, this has been fabulous weather for it. But obviously, you got to take the good with the bad here. The heat and the humidity, it's not all, fun. There is risk too with all kinds of weather, of course. Each usually poses their own risk if it's not, quiet and 60 degrees with nothing happening. When we're talking the heat, yes, there are concerns. Of course, I drive through so much road work now. My heart just really goes out to the workers when it's really cold, when it's really warm. I mean, it's almost like, your postal worker where they just are out in it for the most part, no matter what. Obviously, when it's pouring, that doesn't happen, but it's the same general idea for your postal worker, though it is, your deliverer specifically. But, on those types of job sites where, they're out on pavement, black pavement all day long, where, that absorbs a lot of heat and doesn't release a lot of it. That's something called albedo, actually. When you have a high albedo, like anything that's white, for example, that reflects a lot of the sunlight back, which is why we tell you to wear light colored clothing on these hot days. But when the darker something is and then black, it just absorbs and holds on to that heat. So that's why you're really supposed to avoid black clothing. So I guess with that, I mean, we'll go over your typical yada yada, wear light colored, loose fitting clothing. It helps just kind of circulate air because you're going to sweat. Everybody sweats at different rates. Everybody's different. Maybe too much personal information here, but I'm a sweater, especially if I have to, go on a walk or work out outside. I just completely avoid that during the summer because it's too uncomfortable for me. So yeah, I mean, we tell you to do that, wear your hats, it helps keep the sun out of your eyes. Believe it or not, you got to protect your eyes. That's why we say sunglasses too. It's for UV protection for your eyes and your eyelids too, because your eyelids are very sensitive. And with all of the, here, I'm going to do this now, with all the that you do, you can, in the rubbing of the eyes, you can remove sunscreen if you're not especially if you're not reapplying every 2 hours like we're all supposed to. But let's be real here. You know, we're all bad at, most of us anyway, are bad at the reapplying part of this. This person especially, I've been trying to get better at it, particularly on my face, because I heard a dermatologist say something to the effect of roughly wearing at least like an SPF 20-ish, it might have been a 15, but at least doing that over the course of 5 years drastically during, you know, key time in your life too. I think it's like your 30s to lower 40s or something, drastically reduced photo aging and just signs of aging in general. So, I mean, here I am in I'm gonna still say I'm in my low 40s or low 30s. I'm a little close, but I'm not gonna say mid 30s yet. That scares me. I know some people out there are like, are you kidding me? Shush. I will shush now from this point forward. But it was enough, you know, I was that dumb kid, and I'll just say it, I was that dumb teenager that did the tanning because that was in, and they weren't really harping so much on the risk back when I was a teenager, and even carried over into my young adulthood until I read an article when I was 23, and I think it was from Cosmo, because yeah, I read those trendy little magazines back in the day. But I read some story about a 20-something-year-old who got skin cancer so bad, melanoma I think it was actually, but it was stage 4 and she died. And that scared the living daylight out of me. Pun was not intended there. I wanted to use other words. That was the first one I found. But, you know, that just scared me so much that I stopped tanning outside. I stopped wearing SPF 4 because I know I'm pasty and I'm pale, but because I'm half Italian, I can actually tan. I have to work for it, and then I have to work really hard to keep it up. But it was just oh my gosh, just because I can tan doesn't mean I should. You know, and even people with darker skin tones, now we're really getting on a tangent here, darker skin tones, no matter how dark you are, just because your skin pigment has that mechanism to protect you from sunburn, the UVA rays penetrate deep into your skin. That does not protect from that. So even the darkest of skin tones do need sunscreen too to protect yourselves. So that's why, you know, if you hear me harp on that a lot during Fox 43 Morning News on the appropriate days, it's just, I don't want especially younger people, you know, to make that same mistake I did. And it's never too late to turn it around. Remember what I just told you moments ago, that even over 5 years, using at least an SPF 15 or 20 makes an impact, especially at critical times during your life, in your 30s going into your 40s. That's a critical time, but it's never too late. And on that note, obviously never too early too. So, you know, you want to make sure that, you know, there's people at those jobs, not only are they wearing those typical, you know, loose, light-fitting clothes, and just everybody in general, but, you know, you want to make sure you're wearing the sunscreen, reapply. I know at these jobs they can be difficult, especially because you sweat a lot of it off. But another thing, of course, is, you know, take breaks. Do your best to take frequent breaks. You know, it's sad because I feel like I never actually see them rotating breaks, at least in the small sampling that I have. Maybe I just miss it. I sure hope so. But you gotta stay hydrated too, take breaks in the shade when possible. I mean, there's just so much, you know, it can get to you and fast, especially because I know they're required to wear bright orange so that they can be seen. At least those things are baggy and loose and whatnot, but really just, you know, make sure you're taking care of yourselves, guys. Telling this out of concern for sure. You know, while you're outdoors too, even if you are, you know, wearing your sunscreen, your hat and whatnot, your light, loose-fitting clothing, your light, loose-fitting clothing, you need to make sure that you're not overexerting yourself. So, you know, try to, especially during peak heating, between the hours of 10 to 4, avoid it. For example, if you're going to be doing any gardening or mowing the lawn, that's best done in the morning or later towards the evening. That's why we emphasize that, especially because that's, you know, if you overdo it and you're not hydrating, you put yourself at risk for those heat-related illnesses. And then, you know, think of people indoors. Think about your pets even. Remember for those little paws, by the way, if it's too hot for your bare feet, it's too hot for them. whether it's the sidewalk or the street. First and foremost, that is the best rule of thumb ever. But look for, we did a story on this a couple of days ago, excessive panting from your animals can be a sign that they're overheating and it's time to take them in and get them some water. So watch your pets, and also, you know, check up on your elderly friends, and, you know, make sure kids are safe too. You know, with Ava, she just wants to keep playing and playing, especially when we go to the park. It's really hard to stop her. You know, you have to look for the signs and say, you know, I know you want to keep playing. You're hot, you're sweating, you're, you know, red or flushed. It's time for a break, even though, you know, I've got a toddler, she kicks and screams and she doesn't like it. And then for the vehicles, we can never emphasize enough, never, ever, ever leave people or animals in a car. Right off the bat, I'm going to tell you this fact. 70 degrees in full sunshine is already too hot. But just to give an idea, you know, to throw some numbers out there, some more tangible things there. At 90 degrees outside, just 10 minutes with your car in the sun, windows closed. By the way, windows open, even all the way open, it's slower, but it still gets too hot. And nobody leaves their windows open all the way, because I don't know about you, but, you know, people can break in. So who wants that? I feel like everybody would want to prevent that. But even in 90-degree weather, after 10 minutes, it's 109 degrees in that car. At 95 degrees, it's 114 degrees. So, I mean, it only gets worse. And if you think about this too, 20 minutes at 95 degrees, you're looking at 124 degrees. At 30 minutes, it's 129 degrees, and at 1 hour, it is 138 degrees Fahrenheit. Absolutely never, ever, ever, ever do that. I know that's a little preachy here, but I mean, you know, you hear these stories all the time where it's like, oh, it's just 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes at 90 or 95 degrees, even with the windows cracked a little, no, that's still not good, you know? Just better to be safe and be smart than be sorry. You never want to be those unfortunate stories that we end up reporting on sometimes. It's just not worth it. You know, whatever it is, either stop and get it another time or take your kid in with you. If you can't take the animal in, because I know depending on what you're doing, some places may like it, other places don't, then you just have to wait until later. It's just going to have to wait. So all that aside, you know, I know we're coming off of the heat wave as I'm recording all of this, but still just take care of yourselves, because this might be the first time, but you know, we've got a little more than a week and a half left or so until summer. It certainly won't be the last. So it's good to get this information out early as we're, you know, looking to maybe or maybe not break the heat wave today. We'll see. Clouds, and yes, we'll be watching showers and storms, so it'll be another close call like it was yesterday or Tuesday for Harrisburg. Today, Wednesday, it'll be another close call. So in the meantime, guys, I hope you enjoyed this vlog. Let me know what you want to hear about. Please comment below. I'll try to, like I say in these previous vlogs, cover different topics as they're timely compared to, you know, what the weather's happening. Otherwise, I mean, I hope you just have a wonderful and a safe one out there and enjoy it. Talk to you later. Bye.